Cube for Beginners, a guide to building your first cube. Cube is not just drafting cards. A properly constructed cube provides you with drafting experiences. Magic experiences you can't get anywhere else. This video will guide you through the process of building your own cube. Please note, this video is on the introductory level and meant for people with little to no cube experience. For a look at advanced cube construction and upgrades, see my video here. If you have not yet seen my video discussing what cube is, you may do so here. Let's start with a discussion of cube construction in general. The goal of cube is, everything is awesome. There's a saying that I'm fond of. The ideal of cube is that everything is ideal. When building a cube, you are looking to include only the best of the best. No jank, no dirt, no duds. Cube is meant to be the optimal drafting experience, and thus you are constantly striving to use only the best. Cube basics: sizes and number of cards. Cube is a singleton format, meaning you do not include more than one copy of each card. While many cube builders have successfully built cubes using multiple copies of the same card, cubes are supposed to have only one copy of each card. Size matters in cube. There are three sizes of cube. A small cube, 360 cards, which can accommodate 4 to 8 players. A regular cube, 540 cards, which can accommodate 8 to 12 players. And a large cube, 720 cards, which can accommodate up to 16 players, or 2 pods of 8. Since you normally draft 3 packs of 15 cards per person, or 45 cards total, 360 cards are needed for an 8-person draft, and a 360 card cube is considered a small cube. In a 360 card cube, every card in that cube gets drafted if you have 8 players. That means that if you have a small cube, you can guarantee the appearance of cards. If you have strategies you want to encourage, you may want to build a small cube. A great example of this would be storm cards. In larger cubes, you might not be able to ensure enough storm cards make an appearance for someone to draft a storm deck. This can lead to a bad cube experience. The player who attempted to draft Storm failed to do so, and now has a non-working deck. Their matches are a dud, both for them and for their opponents. A small cube is also worth considering if you typically have fewer people to draft with. A smaller cube helps ensure a healthier, more controlled pool. So if you expect to be drafting with only 3 or 4 people, a smaller choice is usually the way to go. 540 cards creates a regular-sized cube, where 2/3 of the cube will be seen in a standard 8-person draft. A regular-sized cube has less control than a small cube, and this can be a problem with combo strategies, but you are still likely to get all the pieces needed for your decks. You also gain the advantage of having a little more variety in your decks, as well as the option of up to 12 players. A large cube of 720 cards can accommodate up to 16 players, or 2 pods of 8. Yes, with a cube this size, you can host events that can have up to 2 separate pods. Large pods are usually favored by organizations, clubs, and stores. But of course, if your house is the happening place to draft, it can also be the size of your personal cube. For beginners, I recommend that you start with either a small or regular-sized cube. Large cube construction is much more complex. Creating packs. Randomize your cube. Your basic lands should have the same sleeves as the rest of your cube, but it is critical that they be kept separate from the rest of the cube. When you create packs from your cube with which to draft, you don't want any of your basic lands in that pool of cards. This means you have to be really vigilant about making sure everyone takes out their basic lands after a night of cubing and returns them to their proper, separate pile. Now it's time to start the draft. To create a pack of cards from your cube, all you need to do is randomly pull 15 cards from a fully shuffled cube. Just like in a regular draft, each player gets 3 packs. So 3 15-card piles for each player, or 45 cards per person. You do not ensure any specific ratio of commons, uncommons, or rares. You will not have the same rarity ratio as a booster pack. In Cube, rarity is irrelevant. Cube is concerned with what a card does, not with what a card's rarity is. You must learn to see past rarity to the true mechanic of a card. Ideally, you are concerned with what a card does, how it functions within your cube, what role it plays, and that it does these things better than any other alternative out there. Building your cube. Now that you have decided on the size of your cube, let's talk about how to construct that cube. The first question you need to answer is what kind of cube do you want to build, and how do you want gameplay to feel? Do you want a cube from a single block, from cards you already own, more creature-based or more combo-heavy? A cube is designed to be your optimal gameplay experience, so what aspects of Magic are your favorite? I loved playing during the Innistrad block, so my friends and I are going to build an Innistrad cube to recreate the feeling of gameplay during that time. Ah, memories. Once you know what kind of cube you want to build, don't start without help. Use the internets. Cube templates can give you an idea of how many cards in each color you should include, and deck lists can get you started and be modified by your preferences. Again, the single best resource is CubeTutor.com. A player who has never built or even played Cube before, who attempts to build their first cube completely from scratch, will likely not have an optimal or even successful experience. You should begin your journey in Cube by starting with someone else's list. It is very difficult to build a perfectly balanced cube. For those wanting to see a quintessential cube, I would recommend the list of Ben Titmarsh, or Ben's Cube, which is of course available at Cube Tutor, his site. Even just as a means of study, it is wise to begin with a reliable and well-crafted list. I also recommend that new cube builders consider building a Pauper cube first. A Pauper cube is one that restricts itself to only common cards from throughout Magic's history. This is a great way to get started learning about the inner workings of a cube, and all for about $100. There are many Pauper cube lists to choose from. My Pauper cube utilized the well-respected list of Adam Stborski. I'll include a link to Adam's list on Cube Tutor, as well as a few budgetary cuts you might want to make to keep the cost at about $100. You know, Chain Lightning is a common, but it's also $15. Creating a truly great cube is difficult, so what do you need to know when building your cube? Ideally, each color should be equally represented in your cube, so your friends can draft whatever color they want. You also have to be careful that no color combination is too powerful, or the people who draft your cube regularly will know that they need to try to go for those colors. You also want to make sure each color is balanced. Each color should have removal, a good mana curve, and a variety of card types. Ratios for artifacts, multicolored spells, hybrid spells, and non-basic lands is where things get tricky, and certain colors can become too powerful. By reducing the number of multicolored cards, in particular tricolored cards, you not only reduce the need for mana-fixing cards, but you also reduce the undesirable effect of your players choosing their cards based solely upon color, and encourage the more desirable effect of players picking based on function and value. And again, this is where starting with someone else's list can be invaluable. Let's look at a template for a 360 card cube. 60 of each of the 5 mana colors, 30 non-basic lands, and 30 colorless artifacts. But again, this is not an exact rule, it's just a template to get you started. Compare that to this guideline. Here we've got 50 of each mana color with 25 creatures and 25 other spells within that color, 60 multicolored with 6 cards for each color pair, 50 colorless, and in this template we use non-basic land, artifact, things like the Eldrazi, all in that same colorless category, And that brings us to a total of 360 cards. Once you know what you want to build and have a framework, start building. Look for cards that are a good value. Commons that come back due to mechanics like flashback or undying can be great, as well as cards that do more than one thing, which will help you, or more importantly, the players of your cube, get what they need when they need it. Cube is the apotheosis of Magic the Gathering. It is an experience anyone can sit down to enjoy, and it creates for those players the most equal playing field in Magic. You and I sitting down to draft from a properly designed cube means that the size of my bank account, the rotation or meta of our format, and even the role of luck where it comes to crappy cards and jank need not apply. Cube is the ultimate form of my skill versus yours. Building a cube to provide this experience is Magic at an even greater level. An active cuber is always scouring new sets for cards that might allow them to take out old cards and replace them with these new ones. But instead of needing a playset of all the chase rares and mythics, you might find yourself only needing or wanting 2 to 3 cards from a new set, if that. In this sense, a cube is never finished. It allows you to stay forever a part of the Magic the Gathering community. But how would you upgrade your first cube to something more powerful, more advanced? Make sure you check out our video on advanced cube construction. I hope this video has been of some help to you.